Welcome to the Clean Mentality Podcast, where we focus solely on what you can do daily to make your life easier physically, mentally, and spiritually. I am your host, Easton Dutkiewicz. Let's get after it. So today we are welcoming Oliver Goulet to the show. He runs two companies and went from being an overweight drug addict to a fit entrepreneur who is a nutrition and life coach. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to join you today, man. I love what you're doing with your podcast, and hopefully we can provide a substantial amount of value to your listeners and ultimately help you on your mission. So thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. So we met through the First Form app, and we're constantly talking through Kaizen every week. And I noticed you have a great passion for self-development and, wanting to teach others. What was the change that, kind of happened that made you flip the switch to become a better version of yourself and want to help others?
So it goes way back. I've always had this sense of feeling like I was different in a way, but I didn't understand why. And then, everyone's growing up, learning life lessons, ended up going down a pretty dark rabbit hole after I ran into some issues in college and ended up going into drugs. I got into cannabis because I had to pay some lawyer fees, and I actually started selling weed because of that. And then as I continued down that path of selling weed, you start getting into other drugs and selling other hard drugs and doing hard drugs. And then it just ended up being a full-blown addiction at one point. And the really big part that came to fruition was the fact that I was doing myself a disservice and I was heading myself down a very dark path. And I actually had this vision or this epiphany, as you may say, when I was laying in bed one night. I was actually all coked out, had done a ton of blow throughout the day. And it was like leading up to that moment, I had done blow like cocaine every single day for like 6 months straight. And I just like deep down, I knew that I was doing wrong. And then I had this vision where I was actually at a funeral, and during the vision, I didn't understand whose funeral it was, but I could see all my family, my friends, and one person in particularly stood out, which was my mother, and she was absolutely bawling. And I heard her say he was too young. And at that moment, I kind of like realized like I was at my own funeral. Even though I didn't get a chance to walk up to the casket, I knew that I was there. And I looked back and I was like, this is where my life's going. This is going to lead me to an early death. And then the next day I ended up, trying to work my way out of not using and stuff like that. And then, I have relapsed a few different times, but ultimately led me to, stop using cocaine. But at the time I was still partying, going out, doing all those things and stuff like that. And I actually went to a gay bar. Surprisingly enough, I went down to Fort Wayne, Indiana with my best friend. And he's like, yeah, I got a cool spot for us to go out to. And I was like, okay, cool. What is it? And he's like, don't get mad, but it's a gay bar. And I was like, bro, I'm straight. I don't want to go to a gay bar. Like, I like women. And he's like, no, dude, I promise you'll be a good time. And I ended up going to this gay bar, and I met this girl, super cool girl. She was actually a really hot MILF, and we hit it off, got her Instagram. And then I saw her consistently posting this dude on her story, and it just happened to be the MF CEO project with Andy. And I messaged her one day. I was like, who the fuck is that? Like, why do you keep posting this every single day? And she's like, oh, he's an entrepreneur. He like gives great advice on self-development. I think it'd help you out a lot. So I started listening to him religiously, basically had him in my ear fucking 12 hours a day while I was working. And it helped me transition my mindset into like, I am better than this, which ultimately led me to starting to go the legal route with the cannabis side, because during that time I was still doing everything illegally as shit. And it was like, all right, there's a ceiling in this industry with me doing it illegally. But because the state and where we are now, they started to regulate it, and now it is legal. And if you take the proper steps, you can go the legal route and make legal money. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to start going that route. And basically just ended up following that, ended up following Andy pretty religiously, ended up finding about First Form after I completed 75 hard the first time. I had no idea what companies he owned. I just knew he was a fucking gangster at the end of the day. So I was like, dude, I'm going to listen to this dude. Ended up falling in love with First Form. And then 4 years later, ended up connecting with Easton through the Legionnaire Connect app. Me and Easton are both Legionnaires, as you guys know. And I ended up messaging him because it shows you like who's in your area. And then we ended up kicking it off, and now he's part of Kaizen. And yeah, we're here.
That's crazy, man. Like the stuff that you probably had to go through, like coming into where you're at this point. compared to back then, it's probably night and day difference. So, um, like in the moment of all that, like how are you kind of feeling, like going through the relapse and going through, the change that you had to go through? Like how long was that process and everything?
So I basically started 75 hard. That was like 6 months after I'd found Andy. And it took about, I'm 26 now. I started on my 22nd birthday. And, it's been the last 4 years. I haven't really taken a day off. Yes, I've stumbled, I've fallen, but at least I was continuously moving forward. We all have our demons and, the obstacles and adversities that we face every day. Some days we win, some days we lose. But I've stacked up enough wins over the last 4 years that ultimately led me to where I am today, where I have people that that are grown ass men that look up to me for advice. I have a great group of peers around me through Kaizen. Being a part of Arte, I work with and have really good friendships with multi millionaires. I've met Andy a few different times in person, and it's just all part of the game. Life's one big game. It's just how do you play that game? It's all ultimately your choice, and everyone has an option every day whether they want to move forward in life, stay stagnant, which is technically always moving back because everyone around you always is moving forward, unless you surround yourself by a bunch of people that aren't really trying to make you a better person, that constantly stay the same. And that's just basically where it comes down to.
Yeah, I like that part about how we all have a choice to decide, whether we're going to stay on the path we're on or, you know, do the things that we know we should do to move forward. Um, so what kind of boundaries did you have to set, like, in order to get away from your old lifestyle and like the old friends that you had, obviously?
So it was very, very hard with, being, addicted and being an addict. Like, I mean, I'm still an addict. Like at the end of the day, like it never goes away. I've just become addicted to the right things. And I read the book Think and Grow Rich, which opened my eyes to like you are the sum of the five people you spend the most time with. So I really had to take a step back and create awareness around who I was really giving my time to. When I was addicted to drugs and all this stuff, like the only way for me to actually move forward and get away from those things is to separate myself. Because when I was hanging out with a bunch of drug addicts, I was the drug addict with them. Like, what did we do? We did drugs. So it was very, very hard to separate myself from that. In setting boundaries, like there's a lot of my friends that I grew up with my entire life, my best friends in the whole fucking world at the time, that I've had to create boundaries with. I will limit, the amount of time I talk to them. I don't hang around those people anymore. Like if they ever want to chat or they just need some advice or anything, my phone is always open to them, but I won't go out of my way to spend time with those types of people. Like a lot of them have made the transition. They're away from the things, which is great, but we're still going down totally different paths. They've chosen their path and I've chosen mine. I used to give them the opportunity to come along with me on the journey, but a lot of them, some of them tried, some of them just wanted nothing to do with it, and that's totally up to them. That's their life. But I used to hang myself up on the fact like I wanted to bring all of these people with me, but ultimately I can't make anyone change. I just had to realize like I can only leave the door open. They have to take their own action and walk through that door. I used to try throwing them through the door, pushing them, dragging them, all of those things, and it just left me so unfulfilled and unhappy with myself because it's like, what am I doing wrong? But at the end of the day, it wasn't me. I can't make them change. It's ultimately up to them. Like I can give them, all the tools, the straight up blueprint to better themselves. But if they don't want it, then they'll never change. And it was a hard pill to swallow. So setting up those boundaries with, okay, these people, they came into my life for a certain reason at a certain time to show me a certain thing, for me to learn a certain lesson. Now it's, okay, how can I make it to that next group? And Andy talks about it. It's called no man's land when you make that transition from that friend group, because you have to decide whether or not you want to stay with the people that are holding you back, or if you want to break free and you want to move to that next place. And the period in between there is called no man's land. And this is where most people, they give up because, for example, me and you are huge into fitness. When you first start your fitness journey, you start going to the gym and you make it a habit and you start really going to the gym. And guess what? All the people that you used to spend your time with, they either they give you shit about going to the gym. They want you to not go. They want you to take it easy, go do this, go do that. When ultimately you made the decision to do that, and you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice whether or not you want to go back and hang out with those same group of people, or if you're willing to spend the time with yourself. And that is where most people give up, is in no man's land, because they can't deal with the loneliness and the pain of being by yourself long enough to find that next tribe of people to carry you on to continue with the journey. And that is the saddest part. And that is ultimately why I ended up creating Kaizen, is because I went through no man's land for almost 2 years. The only people I'd ever talked to were my coaches from First Form and people that I met through First Form. There was no one around me. So basically it was me and myself. And this happened all during the time of COVID, which was, it was great that it happened. Most people say that COVID was like the worst time of their lives because, they didn't get to do anything and all that. COVID saved me, because if it wasn't for COVID, I probably would have fallen back in old habits. I would have kept going to the bars. I would have kept partying. I would have done all these things, but it really made me realize, like, most people, they're staying stagnant right now. They're building bad habits. They're falling into bad vices and all these things. And it's like, I've already had all the bad vices. I've literally been addicted to everything basically under the sun, except for things that have needles, literally. And now it's like, okay, I can take this time and really invest into who I want to become now. And that was, the time period where I had the most amount of growth. And every year after that, it's just more and more and more growth. And going back to the boundaries side of thing, like, it is the hardest thing to do, because you even have to set up boundaries within your own family, because your family has limiting beliefs. They don't believe in what you might not be able to do because they've never known any difference. And this is the part where I've had to really come to realize that I have to give these people grace, because they ultimately don't know what any other life is like. They don't know how good it feels to wake up with a smile on your face, be happy, working towards something every single day. Don't get me wrong. Not every day is fucking perfect. There's days where I simply fucking do not want to get up out of bed and do what I want to do. But I know at the end of the day, it's going to move me forward. And that's where the discipline comes in. And that's where ultimately the biggest thing that comes with doing 75 hard is doing the things that you don't necessarily want to do on a regular basis, because you know the outcome. It's that invisible progress that you're making every single day. So that's my biggest thing with, like, the boundaries. Like, I've even had to set it up with my family. I know with family gatherings, depending on which one it is, I limit myself. Like, if I'm going to go see my parents, an hour cutoff. If I am there for longer than an hour, I know that there's going to be negative repercussions, because I'm going to hear some shit that I don't care to hear. I'm going to hear some or do some things that I don't really care to do. And I just don't need those types of thoughts. Like, I love my parents to death, but they don't understand they understand where I'm trying to go, but they don't know how to help me get there. There's no way around it, because they don't know any different. So that's the biggest thing with boundaries. If you want to continuously grow at the end of the day, you're going to have to set up boundaries. I mean, even Parker, for example, he's my best friend. There's certain times before this, like we were talking on the phone right before this, I have to set up a boundary because I need to have myself in a clear headspace before I do a podcast with you. I had to cut him off at 10 minutes because we like to bullshit. We're regular dudes at the end of the day. And it's like, all right, dude, I got to get myself in a better headspace for this podcast, because I don't want to come on here and just start bullshitting. Like, I'm here to provide value at the end of the day. And that's ultimately where boundaries come into play. You have to have boundaries, and that's going to allow you to have a lot more sense of fulfillment at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, like when you touched on not being that like tugboat for other people, trying to drag all these people along, like, I relate to you 100% there. We've talked about it before. Like, I get caught up in that space with family, like, of course, being a person that is going to this next part in their life and seeing the positive healthy changes that are happening, of course you want to bring people along, but you can't do that when the person doesn't even want to move. So otherwise you're just throwing a rock at, they're not going to move. So yeah, man, touching on boundaries is a huge thing. I think a lot of people, even with their own family, like you're saying, they don't realize what their own family really implements on them as far as negative behaviors. I relate with you. I think I could even have, a better boundary with my own family. Like, because sometimes you're at home and you're like, well, I don't really want to eat that, or I don't want to, be involved in, just watching TV aimlessly for 3 hours, like, just so far past that. But yeah, so kind of to transition, I guess, what's kind of your goal, or what's your impact you want to make on the world, man?
Yeah, dude. So I might not necessarily be able to touch base with a million people at once yet, but every person, I will take the time to invest in them, because, like you said, you have to, like, making someone change, you can't. but you can lead them in the right direction. And as I continue to grow and get better, I can see when people actually desire to be better. And when you can see that in them, the want a little bit, it might not be as strong as your want, but if you can just pick out the little pieces, like the things that they say when you're having a conversation with them, that, you can feel like their want for more to better themselves, and you can just lead them in the right way. And you can just give them one little gold nugget. And if they take and utilize that gold nugget and they consistently act upon it, they're going to have a difference. They're going to make a difference within the people that they're around at the end of the day, because the only way to truly lead is by example. And if that person takes that nugget that you give them and they act on it and they consistently do it, the people around them are going to notice. The people that want to better themselves are going to ask more questions. They're going to start, investing more of their time and effort and energy to talk to that person about why they're doing that. And if there's a good enough reason, if that person can break down exactly why they're doing those things, it's going to transition into that person bettering themselves longer and for a more sustainable time period. And then guess what? That other person and their group of friends that might not necessarily be the same might see that and ask another question, like, why are they doing that? They might start, and then it's just domino effect. And that's how I truly look at every single day. And that's ultimately what I want to make on the world. I want to impact millions of people's lives. And it all just starts with one person at a time. At the end of the day, one person at a time. Every single day, I try to have a conversation with a stranger. And with that conversation, I want it to be the best conversation that person has all day, all week, all month, because you never know what that person's going through. We talk about a lot through Kaizen, dude, people struggle, especially right now with today's economy and just the shit going on in the world. You really never know what's going on through that person's head. And the last thing you want to do is, look past someone, because most people that end up either committing suicide or doing something to harm themselves or others, they're the ones that, sit in silence so long. And they think that, for men, for example, they think that it is a sign of weakness to speak about it, dude. But at the end of the day, dude, everyone fucking struggles. Life is hard. There's no way around it. I have struggles, you have struggles, Easton's, every one of your audience member struggles. That is what life is about. Life is literally overcoming the struggles on a daily basis. Even the mentors we look up to that, people put on such a big pedestal. When you meet with someone like Andy Frisell face to face and you have a conversation, he is just like us, bro. He is a man. But guess what? He just endured the struggles long enough and learned from his mistakes and kept going. That's why he's so fucking far ahead. And that's why so many people look up to him. It's just because he consistently took action to overcome these struggles. And that's why he's in the position today and has so much influence, because he's put in the work, he's put in the years, he's put in the reps over and over and over again to become that leader that so many people strive to want to be like. And there's another point with that. A lot of people, they want to be like Andy, but guess what? You'll never be Andy. The only person you can truly be better than anyone else at is yourself, because at the end of the day, no one can do you better than you can. And we've talked about this a little bit with building your brand and stuff. It's no one can be better than you at you. That's your one superpower. No one can be you at the end of the day.
100%, man. I think it makes a lot of sense when you think of it that way. And then, kind of the part about where we put people on pedestals too. We put, Andy Frisell or any of these big multimillionaires or billionaires on pedestals. But reality is they all probably started in a garage, or we're at our level at some point and they're just like us. Yeah. So I think one of the things too is the thing with Kaizen is we're kind of helping the younger generation to become better, uh, and to have a lighthouse or set of principles to follow and improve themselves. What's kind of your change that you think we need in the younger generation as far as self-development, good values, stuff like that?
So, as everyone in the audience knows, if you've seen anything on the news, you've seen where everything's going. Men are becoming weaker and weaker, and that has a lot to do with, the shit that they're consuming on a daily basis. The news, the media, social media, TV, the vices, porn, all of these things that ultimately aren't going to help you become the best version of yourself. It actually is taking more of your life away than it's actually giving you, because us as humans, no matter who you are, you're always searching for the next dopamine hit or that serotonin. We're always trying to feel happy. We're always trying to feel good at the end of the day. That is truly what we're looking for. And because it's become so easy now that most younger men, they have fallen into these vices and that ultimately hold them back, and they wonder why they can't get a fucking hot girlfriend. They wonder why they can't fucking have a body that they desire. They wonder why they can't have a good job. And it's because they always choose the easy route. And I can promise you, for you listeners, no matter what you want to do with your life, if you want something fulfilling that actually gives you a sense of purpose and fulfillment within yourself, you're going to have to choose the hard shit. You're going to have to put yourself in uncomfortable positions, because the only way you will ever truly grow is stepping out of your comfort zone and actually trying to make something happen. It doesn't matter what you're trying to pursue during your time here on earth. Like, I can't judge no one. Everyone's got their own path. And if you are cool with me talking about God, like, I'm a firm believer in God, and God knows exactly what we're supposed to be doing with our purpose here. He has a purpose for every single one of us. And the only way you'll ever figure out what your purpose is to try a bunch of shit and fucking fail and fall on your face. Like, that's one thing that used to hold me back more than anything, was I was so afraid to fail, because I held my standards so high for myself that I was afraid. I was afraid to step out of my comfort zone, which is why I ended up weighing 270 pounds and being addicted to drugs, because that shit was comfortable for me. And it was the most uncomfortable thing, having to make the transition, like going to the gym the first time, uncomfortable. Me getting in a cold plunge the first time, uncomfortable. Me starting to run, uncomfortable. Me starting a podcast, uncomfortable. Me starting Kaizen. Bro, I was scared shitless to start that group, because I had my peers drop a little nugget like, hey, I think we're lacking something here in the United States. You should do this, and start creating a group of peers for your like-minded people to help them along their journey. I was scared shitless when I first had that first call with Brad Moderich, and now look at where we're at. We have almost 30 dudes, and we have such a great brotherhood of people, and we are fully transparent with each other. Whatever we're struggling with, we're here to help one another. Whatever business, we're trying to support one another. And at the end of the day, like, it's hard. No matter what you do, you're going to suck. And the biggest thing is that holds people back is the fear of failure. You're going to fail. It's kind of like riding a bike the first time. You're going to fucking fall. If you were to never get back on that bike, you would never know how great riding a bike could be. And imagine if you take that principle and apply it to any area of your life. You're gonna suck. Like me, listening to my first podcast, it makes me cringe, because my speaking skills weren't that great. I stumbled on my words. I used a lot of filler words. I really struggled with projecting to my audience what I really wanted them to hear and listen to. And over time, now I'm almost a year in, like, my speaking skills have increased substantially, because I put in the reps. The more you do something, the better it's going to be. That's like me and you. Well, the first day at the gym, we really didn't necessarily know what we were doing. Like, we were just going there, trying things. And guess what? Now, X amount of years later, I can go into the gym and know exactly what I'm doing. I know how to do proper form. I know about nutrition. I know all these things. That's because you consistently try. And if you do that to any area of your life and you consistently try, you will get better. As long as you're learning from your mistakes. Like, the saying is, you fall 7 times, you get up 8. If you literally do that with anything you want out of life, you will succeed. You will.
So, like, I relate to you with as far as like the gym goes, for sure. The first time you go in, you're like, I don't know what to do. And now later on, you're like, okay, I go in and I like rep out however much, and I can do perfect form and all of that for sure. So, kind of bringing it back to like the younger generation, and all of us kind of have these limiting beliefs that were just instilled to us as children, and we weren't really necessarily given a chance to decide what we were taught. We were just, this is what my mom did, this is what my dad did, and they, just instilled that in us basically. So what are some like limiting beliefs that were kind of instilled in you as a child and you had to kind of like overcome in your life?
So my mother and father, both very average middle-class Americans. That's what they knew. And their whole goal in life was to raise a great family, which I have 5 amazing siblings. Like, we all have our problems like everyone else. But they chose that route, and I watched my family struggle with money, being middle-class Americans, my entire life. And that was just kind of the belief that was instilled in me. Like, you have credit card debt, you go to, like, if my parents didn't even go to college, they went to some trade schools and stuff like that. And they're like, if you go to college, you get student loans, you work your whole life, you'll pay them off, you'll live an okay life. That was like the number one limiting belief. And I believe that. And then I decided to go to college to play sports. I ended up leaving after 2 years and starting my cannabis company, which was hands down the best thing I've ever done because I'm not over $100,000 in debt, and I will have my student loan debts paid off in the next year. And I will own my house completely outright at the age of 26. Not many people can say that.
Damn.
And I'm continuously investing into my personal growth and my companies. And after when this new facility is open, we're going to do over $1 million in revenue our first year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like it is what it is. And then years after that, we're going to be expanding, going to different states, continuously growing because of my mindset and just the limiting beliefs that I've been able to break by surrounding myself by people that have done it. And with the middle class American thing, like that was like the biggest thing that was instilled in me is like, money's hard to get, which is completely false. Money is not hard to get. You just have to provide some sort of value, and you have to learn and have to the belief in that there is an abundance amount of money out there. There's so much fucking money out there, dude. It's just, how do I get my hands on it? Working a 9 to 5 is not necessarily the best route to go, but you can still do that. It's just proper spending, like making sure you're not spending money that you don't need to and putting that money elsewhere that's going to pay you more back. You're going to make investments, whether that be in yourself. And I'm a firm believer in investing in yourself within personal growth, learning skills, learning tools, and things of that nature. Like a lot of people like, oh, take your money, invest in your Roth, invest in this, invest in that. Like that's not necessarily paying, like that's investing in the safe route. But ultimately, like, why invest in the safe route if you think you can do more, if you're willing to take the actions to do exceptionally more things to actually produce a result at the end of the day? Like, yes, I may have some of those counts as safety nets, but at the same time, like, I'm all in. I'm willing to spend the money on myself for learning from peers, mentors, coaches, all of these things, because not only are they helping me smash these limiting beliefs that were instilled in me throughout my whole life, they're helping me have a growth mindset, realizing what is truly capable of. And when I went to college, that was like the first time after I met my best friend David, was the first time that I actually saw like a real entrepreneur, business owner type family. And I visited his house in Indiana, and they live in like a $5 million fucking mansion, bro. I would go there as many weekends as I could just to go spend my time around those people because they talked about money. That's another thing. My parents never liked to talk about money, but because I was always listening, I always heard the financial struggles. We would never discuss money at the dinner table. We wouldn't talk about it. So how would I be able to learn how money actually works? What to do to make money? Because it was never a conversation piece. Now I talk about money a lot because ultimately, like, the more money I have, the bigger impact I can make. And I think that most people's families, especially middle class, either one, they grow up talking about the limits of money and how they don't have it, or two, it's never talked about. How do you expect the younger generation of kids to be financially prosperous and have, financial freedom down the road if it's never talked about? If you don't know anything about a certain subject, how the fuck are you going to achieve it? So the more time I spend with my mentors and peers that have like minds like myself, like for Parker example, he's fucking killing it, doing multiple millions of dollars each year in revenue. And I can name off 100 other people doing that too that are in my network. And the more I surround myself with them, it gives me the belief that it is possible. How do you know something's possible until you've seen it done before? You don't. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And that the limiting belief surrounding money is the biggest limiting belief that most people have, is it's so hard to make money. It's so hard to, get ahead and get out of the rat race and break out of the quote. I hate using this, the matrix, but it's so fucking stupid that people use that all the time. It fucking kills me. But it is getting out of the rat race. How do you break free from the average person that lives paycheck to paycheck, lives in credit card debt, that struggles financially all the time? And that was like the biggest limiting belief that was instilled in me as a kid, was the money part of things. And I've made it my mission in my life is to reach financial freedom so I don't have to ever have my son or daughter or my family listen to me complain about money, or them ask me about money and me be like, oh, we can't do that, we can't afford it. Fuck that. We have one shot at this thing we call life. And someone that we both listen to is Ed Milet, and like, every person has that one member of their family that breaks free, and that person could be you. for any of you audience out there, that person could be you. You could change the trajectory of your entire family's existence for future generations to come. All you have to do is decide. It's not going to be easy. In fact, it's going to be the hardest thing you ever fucking do, but it'll be the most rewarding thing that you ever do.
Yeah, I think that's something that too, like just to touch on that part right there, like you know, your family, your friends, they're not going to understand what you're doing. Like when you do go down the route of I'm going to be that change in the generational uh I'm going to be the generational change. Well, you know, the rest of your family isn't going to understand that. You're going to be in that like no man's land, like you said earlier, like where, like, why are you up at 9 o'clock at night doing a ruck? Like, why are you reading this book right now? Why don't you watch TV? Why don't you relax? Why when you're sick are you still doing all these things? There's like so many like incremental things that you're doing that, like, I had this the other night. I'm just like, you don't understand me. That's what I'm thinking in my head. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I'm not trying to be the same as everybody else.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you have to face you. You have to go. You have to sleep with yourself at night. So, Easton, if you were to, listen to them and, they're like, why are you doing that ruck at night? And you're like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to do that. Easton's the only one that has to go to bed with Easton at night and live with his thoughts. The 6 inches between the ears are the toughest thing that you're going to have to overcome at the end of the day. So if you constantly lie to yourself about, what you're doing and, I'm doing my best when you really aren't, you're the only person that has to live with that. And, I was talking to a guy on my podcast a few weeks back, and he told me like that his mentor is like, once you start this path, you can't ever go back. Like once you start seeing the results from the actions that you're taking on a consistent basis, you can't ever go back. Like, yes, there may be times where you stumble back and you fall back a little bit, but you realize that that is not the life you want to live. And for you, Easton, I want to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like, living an average life, like you see so many people where every weekend they just go to the bar, or maybe even starting on Thursdays, they're going to the bar and then they're going to the bar on Friday, and then on Saturday they're doing the same thing. And all they're doing is just, socializing, talking about really nothing that important with other people and the meeting new people. Where's the growth there? Like throughout the week, you're working a 9 to 5 job or you're working a part-time job and you're in college, but like, what's your system? What are you, doing to improve yourself? Like, there's so many people just living these average lives, like watching TV at night. Like, you get home from work, you're gonna go binge eat from the kitchen, and then you're gonna watch TV. Like, I just look at those people now from like being one of those people, like through high school, and I've always kind of been in like sports and been active and been in the gym, but like just being that average person just kind of drives me nuts now, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's
Yeah, I get that where you're coming from. It does kind of drive you nuts, but you also have to have, like we talked about the other day, is just giving people grace. It's their lives at the end of the day. It drives you nuts because you're different, and different scares people. And that's why ultimately most people don't want, like they don't necessarily like want to spend time with you in certain situations because you make them uncomfortable, Easton. Like at the end of the day, like I'm going to make people uncomfortable because I'm going to push you to become better. I see potential, but you don't see it yet. So if I can get you to start questioning yourself, and that's like, seeing those people that spend the time going to the bars every weekend or from Thursday night, and then it's rinse and repeat. Like, there's a time and a place where you can go out and have fun. There's no way around it. But at the end of the day, when, you use, from the age of 20 to 40 and you're still doing the same shit, that's not what life's about. And I've seen it oftentimes, and I know you have too, with people. It's just like, you don't want to criticize or condemn them for the life that they choose, but you ultimately got to give them grace because we do need average people no matter what, because not everyone's going to be a high achiever. And in today's day and age, it just makes it that much easier to create separation. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point too, saying we do need like you do need the 9 to 5ers at the same time. But yeah, that's a different perspective and a good way to put it to me, because so a lot of times I'm only putting out that one view of, you shouldn't be average. But yeah, I mean, there's that other side of it. Sure.
I just think that that would give you more grace, Easton. Like, you're an amazing dude, bro. You bust your ass. You do everything that you possibly can to move the needle forward every single day. But you got to give yourself some grace and understand that you chose this route and they chose that one. Like I told you before, you just got to be the lighthouse, brother. In less time, because when you look at someone, I'm going to challenge you, because when you look at someone and you're like, man, that person's wasting their life and all these things, like, you're putting those negative thoughts in your head. There's no need to put those types of negative thoughts. You can look at it and be like, yeah, that's your life. And if you even care even more, you can get a better understanding by having a conversation about that. And the truth will come out why they have that way. And then you start asking a little bit deeper questions and get them to start questioning themselves, because as a coach, the easiest way to make someone change is by getting them to come to the realization themselves. Because if I just tell you to do something, the chances of you doing it are very slim to none. But if I can get you to come to the conclusion that you came up with that answer, you're much more likely to follow it if you actually want to.
Good perspective. Yeah. No, I definitely can take that good advice there for sure. um, so I guess we're kind of we talked on Kaizen a bunch of times, and I don't think anyone knows what we're talking about. So I think it'd be important to kind of explain what is Kaizen, and why did you start it? I guess you kind of talked about why you started it, but so as far as Kaizen goes, what's Kaizen?
Kaizen is actually a Japanese word that it stands for continuous improvement and always seeking growth and to always find something to like move forward with. And I can't remember what book it was that I read it in, but it was a few years ago, and I just really liked the word, and I was like, yeah, I really like that. And then as we started, so I'll just give you the breakdown of like how it happened. So one of my mentors, Brad Moderich, he texted me and he's like, hey man, can we get on a call? I got an idea. And he had also texted like two other guys, Parker Judd and Brian Kirchner, his son. And he's like, I think there's something missing. There's something missing for the younger men to have like-minded men to surround themselves with and have a peer group to actually make something of themselves and continue down this path. Because as me and Parker, we're part of Arte, which is an exceptional group of entrepreneurs that are the best of the best in the industry and that hold themselves to standards, and is basically, just phenomenal people making a difference within their companies, have these strong core values and all of these other things to ultimately like try to make the United States, the greatest it can be. And the thing is with Arte, it is basically anyone that's from the age of 18 till fucking 90 years old if you wanted to. And because it is a like-minded group of people, it's awesome because, there's people from different industries, networks, every area of business that you can imagine. But the one thing it lacks is for the younger men, because there's a lot of younger, eager men that are on this journey, but it's hard to resonate with me being a 26-year-old male that has a girlfriend and a dog to try to build a relationship and have just genuine, bro to bro conversations with a 40-year-old man that has a wife and 4 kids and runs a multi-million-dollar business. Like, I can't just make a call to him. He's got a lot of other shit going on. And for him, like, yes, it's a different story because their time is more valuable than mine. And the people that are willing to give me their time that are in that position, I'm truly grateful for. And I try to provide as much value and utilize the information that I'm given. And Brad's like, I want you to start a group for like-minded people. I will be a fly in the wall if you guys ever need me, want me to come in and talk to you guys and all of these things. And he said that to me, Brian, and Parker. And then there was Shane, Saul, and there was a couple other dudes that completely like fell off, and it just wasn't for them because, they saw what the standards were and what we expected. So we decided to start this group. We meet every Thursdays. We've been doing it for, I think, 8 or 9 months now. And it's just been, a lot of us look forward to it every single week because we're there with a like-minded group of men here to help one another. We have different topics and things of that nature. And basically, we just wanted to create a community of men to support one another. that are under the age of 30. And with us being able to meet every single week and us having a WhatsApp group that we have conversations with each other every single day, we have, standards that we hold ourselves to. We have core values and all these things that we just hold ourselves to a higher standard, and we check each other when we're doing wrong. We give each other different perspectives. It's just a community of like-minded people that are here to support one another, because the entrepreneurial path is one of the hardest and loneliest journeys there is. And just having a like-minded group of people to bounce ideas off, share stories, share wins, share things they're struggling with, like, it's that gap that we saw that was needed. And ultimately we have some people, we have people that are on the higher end of like higher 20s, and then we have a 19-year-old savage like Christian Holmes. Dude's a fucking baller at the age of 19. If I knew what he knew at the age of 19 and as committed and disciplined as he was, like, we will look back on this podcast 10 years from now and he will be a multi-millionaire. Like, there's no way around it.
100%.
It's because he's surrounding himself by the right people and putting him in the right rooms at the end of the day. And that's ultimately what we wanted to do with Kaizen, is build a room of like-minded individuals. As long as you are consistently trying, like, there's people that are like, they've been on the self-development journey for a year, 2 years. Me, it's going on almost 5. Parker, almost 5. Brian was in the military. Easton was in the military, and all these things. Like, everyone comes from a different place, but at the end of the day, we all share one goal in common, and that's to get better. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do with Kaizen, is push each other to get better, but also create a community to show where we're struggling at and have someone pick us up when we're down. Because with us being ultra high achievers and, going through the no man's land and not having those people to pick us up, like, you have your family and friends, but those people might not necessarily tell you what you need to hear. They're going to be those yes type of people. Like, we've all had those people that are like, it is, it's okay. Just take it easy. All these things, like, if someone comes into Kaizen and has a question in the group and they're struggling, I'm not gonna be like, what, take it easy, bro. Like, fuck that. It's not worth it. Just, just relax. It's like, how can you look at that situation and learn and grow? What you're going through right now is a test, bro. You either push through it or you fall back. What do you want to do? Like, I'm going to push you to become better, but it's a place to open up about certain things. Like, I'm not going to be like, go, go, go. Like, I'm going to see it for what it is from an outsider's perspective and give you my advice based off my lessons and experiences that I've had. And then you have 30 other dudes that'll do the same fucking thing. Imagine how easy it's going to be to get to where you want to go, having people that have been through the shit that you're currently going through and giving you the blueprint on how to get to the other side easier than you doing it by yourself and running the risk of quitting. Because that's literally why we created the group, is because it hurts me to see, because I've seen it many, many times. People start the self-development or the entrepreneurial journey and then they give up because it's fucking hard. The saying is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Guess what? It's a lot easier to make it fucking to where you want to go when you have a group of supporting people behind you that are willing to push you when you need to be pushed or pick you up when you fall down. And that is literally why we created Kaizen. And it brings me joy every single week. All the planning, all the stuff. Like, I've put in over 100+ hours into this already of my own time without getting paid or anything that I could be using to make money. But I care so fucking much about my fellow brothers that I'm willing to invest that time, because I know they're going to actually utilize it to better themselves, which is ultimately leading back to my purpose in life, is impacting a million people's lives. You get what you give at the end of the day. The law of reciprocity is the truest thing. So I don't care how much time, effort, and energy I have to put into my guys. I'll fucking do it because I know the returns are going to be exponential at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think relating to what you said, like, I just recently joined the group about, I think, a month or two ago, and one of the biggest things for me is I've, was kind of looking for a group, like a brotherhood, as a man, like, coming from out of the military, and, a lot of people maybe in the audience might be lacking this too, is like a group that you can go to for anything, like you said. And they're not just, one person that's in, the painting space or something. It's, you got real estate, you got health and fitness, you have people in finance, you have, so many different aspects of life or different mindsets that you can go to in this group. And like after every Thursday's call, you know, I kind of am just like extra motivated after it because I'm like, man, like fuck yeah, like all these people are killing it. Like I'm part of this group. Like it just is the motivation behind it is just very strong. So yeah, I think it kind of comes to a point where like, you know, we're all kind of looking for how do we attract the right people into our lives, you know, and I think a lot of people misinterpret it that like if I just, you know, go find these people, I'll be invited into their group. But if I'm not that person myself already, you know, I haven't really, you know, earned the right to be in that group either. So that's kind of the no man's land is like learning to or creating that inner self, that different person, and then you're gonna get invited into the group naturally. Like I found you out of nowhere. I didn't know you had Kaizen, and then boom, I'm in Kaizen. Like it's because I became a certain type of person to be allowed into that space. So I think maybe you relate on the fact of like attracting certain people into your life. So
Yeah, no, and that's a great thing. Like people are always wondering, how do I, whether we'll just use in a relationship for that example. If you're looking to attract a female or a male into your life, you have to really, swallow that hard pill and look yourself in the mirror. Is like, would the person I want to attract into my life be attracted to me? And many people, if you're honest with yourself, you can't say that. It wasn't until I lost over 70 pounds, I quit using drugs, I did all these things to become the person that I wanted to attract that right person. And guess what? I still had to go through 50 plus fucking dates over 2 years to find my girlfriend Brisbane. And every date I went on, I looked for certain cues. I learned what I was looking for. And then I just had standards because I had girlfriends where they didn't work out. And guess what? Working out is a huge part of my fucking life. And it always will be. Taking care of my physical health is priority number fucking one. At the end of the day, if I can't take care of my physical health and you are a nuisance and you try to pull me back to who I used to become, because that fat fucking kid is still deep down inside of me. He wants to come out every fucking day. But I have to tell that motherfucker, no, I am this person now. I will not go back to who I used to be. And there's plenty of girls I can think of that I dated that wanted to pull me back to who I used to be. And I let them because I was afraid of being alone. But the more comfortable I got with myself, the more I realized that, I have to set a standard. I had basically a checklist of what I was looking for in a female. And guess what? When I met Brisbane, it was the perfect time. I was actually literally like, all right, I was at the point where I was like, maybe this dating shit's not for me. Maybe I'll just be single my whole life. And then guess what? I met Brisbane after our first date. It was supposed to be, we literally, and most people, they go to the bars to meet people. You're fucking fishing in the wrong place if you're looking to find someone to better yourself. If you're going to the bars for looking for that, finding that special someone. That's what our fucking parents used to do because that's what they used to do in the past. But if you are on the self-development journey like us, you have to realize you have to be specific on where you're looking for that someone. And if you're looking to, build your network and grow as a person and, in business and stuff, you're not going to the bars to do that. You're going to networking events. You're getting a part of mastermind groups. You're doing all these other things. And that's where most people lack is they always look in the wrong fucking places for that right person or that right group to exponentially grow themselves. Me, I did not go to the bars to find a female. I tried that. And guess where that led me? Down a dark path because guess what they like to do? They like to go to the bars and party. And that's just not where I was trying to head with my life. I've lived that life for fucking years and it left me so unfulfilled and literally hating myself. Why would I go back to that and knowing where that was? So you start trying to find girls in different places. Like a lot of people find, if you're into fitness, finding a gym girl is going to be the best thing you can do. Because guess what? You share a very common interest. And guess what? Most of the people that go to the gym are trying to better themselves. And my girlfriend, we go to the gym all the time together. We eat clean. We do things. We do active things. We don't go to the bars. We find alternative things to do. And I think that, once you get to a certain person, like certain point in your life, you have to realize like within yourself and just look yourself in the mirror and be like, am I the person that I would be attracted to that I want to be with? And if the answer is no, then guess what? You're probably not going to find the right person. And, with us, me being a firm believer in God, like I knew that God put these girls in my lives to test me to see if I wanted to keep going forward with my life or if I wanted to go back in the old Oliver, that who I used to be. And there was times where I thought, maybe it is, that's just what it is. But I was with girls for, 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time sometimes. And it came to the point where I was driving myself nuts because I stopped growing as a person with this person. And when I was able to find Brisbane, we have not stopped growing together throughout the past 7 months of my life. And it's been the best thing ever. We haven't had a single fight. We don't argue. We have conversations. We go and do active shit. We have a great group of people that we're friends with. And it's just a lot more rewarding that way. And we were just talking about it yesterday, I'm actually going to write a book, but about, finding that right person. Because ultimately, like most people, they struggle so bad with finding that right person. But in order to find that right person, you have to become that person at the end of the day. So basically, it's going to be like a book on how to find that right person, but it's all about building yourself and then you find that right person. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. You won't ever find the person that's perfect for you until you become the perfect person for yourself. And in order, like the saying is like, how can you love someone else if you don't love yourself? If you don't love yourself with taking care of your physical, your mental, your financial, your relationship health, and your spiritual health, like how are you ever going to love anyone else? You can't. Like I used to try loving so many people and loving these girls when I hated myself. And that just left me unfulfilled. And it literally led to me hating myself, wanting to commit suicide, and all of these things. When I started to show love for myself by taking care of it, like taking care of myself, that's when I really actually started to show the love for my brothers, my love for my friends, my family, and all of these things because I actually love myself. I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I love you, Oliver. And I actually do it often because I do love who I am now.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's to go from that place which I've been recently and have kind of just realized recently too, like, it's so easy to go find, someone on Tinder or find someone at the bar or in places that are placed to find one type of person, but in other spaces like where I'm at right now, like I know for a fact, like I go on Tinder 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to find anyone that's even worth my time and or that type of person for me. And yeah, I mean, as far as you relating it back to God, like I know this is, the next step, and then the courage and the discipline and the um self-belief to really like find that next person too. And it comes down to like that aspect of you can't find them in the same places. Like honestly, I'm wasting a bunch of time on dating apps. Like I'm really just wasting time there. So like there's a point to make for sure. But um yeah, I mean, find the right person, attract the right people, be that person. So yeah, man.
Well,
I
I want to
mean,
touch on the whole dating apps. Let me touch on the dating app part. So I actually
yeah,
met
yeah.
Brisbane through Hinge. And if you're going to be on a dating app, everyone knows that Tinder is just for, hooking up and stuff like that. The chance of you finding the love of your life on Tinder are very slim to none. So if you're going to be on a dating app, because like me and you, we don't go out to the bars and stuff like that, you got to go into a dating app that actually has a bunch of different like settings so you can see what that person is actually into, like certain hobbies, interests, like who they are, questions about themselves, and certain things. Like the more specific you can get in understanding who that person is, the better off you're going to be. Like social, like that's just today's day and age. There's a lot of success stories with dating apps, but not necessarily Tinder on that case. It's where you're looking. Like you got to understand the dating apps and what they're used for. You look at Tinder and Bumble, they're basically just hookup apps. Then you get into like Hinge and like other ones like that are more specific because, you have people that go on to Tinder because they know what they're going to get out of Tinder. You have people that go on to Bumble, same thing. You have people that go on a Hinge that are trying to find that special someone that may not be that person that goes out to the bars. They may be someone that's actually dedicated to self-development and stuff like that. And that's what Brisbane was doing. Like she was on the self-development journey already. She was into fitness. She had all these things that checked the box. And it's like, it all just comes down to where you are looking. because there are good dating apps and stuff like that for people like me and you, Easton. Like, we're not the type to go out to the bars. We're not going to be looking in those places. And, the places to look is, in the gym. Have the courage to go talk to a girl, build a relationship. Don't go in with the intention of, oh, this girl's hot, like I want to date her or anything. Go into make a friend. At the end of the day, you get to know someone, Kate. Even if that person, that really hot girl you go and approach, she becomes a good friend, maybe you just become friends with her. And guess what? She might have an even hotter friend that you end up getting with at the end of the day, because she's like, dude, my buddy Easton's such a great guy, yada, yada. That's just how it works. And going back to God, it's all in God's plan, bro. It's all about the timing of things. He has a time for everything. We just don't understand it. And then when it actually happens, we don't actually even get why it happened at the time until we reflect looking back at it down the road. And that's like the biggest thing that I've learned is like, I can look back at all the points in my life, the turning points and stuff like that. And during that time, I didn't understand why it was actually happening. But looking back now, I'm like, it all fucking makes sense now.
100%. Shit. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about on the show?
Not really, guys. And I mean, if you guys are taking the time to listen to this podcast, you obviously want to better yourselves in some way, shape, or form. You don't have to hold the same standards or values or even want the same things out of life as me, Easton, or any of the people that you look up to in life. But ultimately, what you should try doing on a daily basis is trying to move the needle forward, doing something to be productive, doing something to make an impact on your own life and the people around you. And so many people struggle with that, not knowing what to do, where to start. And it's like, just start with one thing, figure out an area of your life that's struggling and start putting more time into that area. Like the areas of our lives that we focus on within Kaizen, we have 5 pillars. It's your physical health, your mental health, your financial health, your spiritual health, and your relationship health. If you're focusing on taking care of those 5 areas of your life, you will be happy, fulfilled, satisfied. You will have a true purpose in life. And it's hard to juggle them all and make sure they all are operating to the best of their abilities. Some are going to need more time than others at certain points in your life. But if those are on the forefront of your mind and those are things that are always a work in progress, you will be happy with yourself. So that's my advice for your audience and stuff like that is just, start taking care of the little things every single day. We talk about stacking the daily wins, winning the day. If you guys don't know about that, Easton will probably talk about that if he already hasn't on his show. But yeah, guys, just start somewhere. If you haven't started your self-development journey and you just like who Easton is and you're kind of like on the edge about it, start. It will be the most rewarding thing for you in your entire life that you do that. And you will look back one day and be like, man, I'm glad I started. And if you look back one day when you didn't start and you're going to say, I wish I started sooner. That's the biggest thing that everyone says. I wish I started sooner.
Heck yeah, man. That's the message here too, man. Physically, mentally, spiritually, better yourself. So yeah, so where can the listeners find you, man?
So mainly I'm on social media on Instagram. All my handles are Oliver_Goulet, Goulet 23, Instagram, Facebook. Those are my main ones. I'm on YouTube too. And then I also have a podcast, The Fresh Hope for Better You. I plan to have Easton on here soon. And yeah, it's just something that's self-development related. I try to just share my stories and experiences, and I have some amazing guests coming on every week. So if you guys are interested, check that out. But yeah, that's basically it. If you guys have any questions or anything or just want to chat with me, I'm literally an open book. I love to help people. Like I said, my mission is to help millions of people. And I literally will get on the phone with anyone to give you the time of day if you are willing to actually want to utilize the information I'm willing to give you. So that's where you guys can check me out.
I really appreciate your time, Oliver. So thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, not a problem, brother. Appreciate you having me on, guys.
You are on a mission to become the greatest man your bloodline has ever seen.